All right, you're on the Live the Dream Media Network. Christopher D. Simone. Shay's making it happen in the box. If you miss anything, remember, not in the old days, you have to go find some weird podcast page. You just go back on YouTube and go back to any spot you want, and that's on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, or X. And of course, you should be all downloading the join the revolution and download the Live the Dream Media app for your Apple or Android phone, and you can take Troublemaker D. Simone anywhere you're at on the planet. So it's Big Wednesday. Bruce Ash is coming up on Inside Track. Libertarian-minded folks coming up at 8 o'clock. And we have a special guest today, Linda Johnson. Hi, Linda. How are you?
Fine. How
Not too bad. Hold on. We got to have your microphone on. Let's start that again. Good morning, Linda Johnson.
Good morning.
There you are.
How are you?
I'm good. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate
I want to
it.
thank our friend Alan for driving you here today.
Oh, yes. Nice drive.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. I never saw this part of Tucson. So
See, this is what happens when you have to rely on the bus. You can't get to beautiful Marana as often as you could.
It's my first time coming. And I was like, this is Tucson?
No, it's nicer. It's not Tucson. It's Marana. So we were talking a little off air. You're originally born in you said San Diego, right?
Yes, I was born in San Diego, California, and I was raised outside of Los Angeles in a small town called Monrovia.
Okay.
And that was a nice, small, very, very good place to be raised because everything was, just when you were in high school, like when I was in high school, everybody was together and we had, everybody knew each other. And that was the bottom line. And that's why I liked it so much. And so, but I always had in the back of my mind that I wanted to live in the big cities. So I moved into Los Angeles and I was there for about 10 years or so. And then I ended up moving to New York because I ended up with the airlines.
Where in New York did you live?
I lived in Forest Hills in New York.
Sure, I know Forest Hills.
I worked for TWA. I was with them from 86 to 2001.
Forest Hills puts you right by a tennis center.
Yes, it does. I didn't play, but everybody else did.
So my family's from the Brooklyn, Queens area. I lived in Nassau County until I was about 17, 18.
Oh, New Yorker, who knew?
Yeah, I left in 88 to come out here with my parents.
Yeah, it was, I loved living there when I was, there. So
New York was a lot nicer in those days.
Oh, it was. Well, when I moved there, the mayor was David Dinkins.
I remember.
And then Giuliani came in and just cleaned up everything.
Yeah, two different worlds between Dinkins and Giuliani.
Yes. So it was a lot of fun living there.
So you worked in the airline business?
Yes.
It was for the most of your career?
Yes.
Okay.
And because I started off as a flight attendant, then I became an in-flight service manager, and then after that, I was a supervisor where I hired and trained flight attendants, turned them in, from regular people into flight attendants. And that was a lot of fun. But then after 9/11, TWA was in the process of being bought by American Airlines. And so once American bought them after 9/11, then they gave us the option to stay with American, but I would have had to move to St. Louis, and I didn't want to do that, so I retired.
Okay.
And then a year later, JetBlue had the same supervisor position. So I became a supervisor there, and I was there for about 6 years as a supervisor. So I did exactly the same thing I did at TWA.
So how did it change over the years of training flight attendants?
They were more strict back then. Now...
Strict in which way?
Well, they had standards. Like, they really, when I was hired with TWA, I
actually had standards.
They did. I had 5 interviews before I was hired at TWA.
Wow.
And JetBlue, since I'd already been in the business, then I didn't have as many, but I had maybe 3 interviews. But we had to train and service and safety and grooming, and we had to, so I had to do all of that. We all had to do all of that. And but now I don't know what they're doing because I do fly because they give us a pass we can use whenever we need to fly somewhere. That's what they give us when we retire.
Right.
And each airline does it differently. But what I what I got was a lifetime pass, but I don't fly anymore unless I have to.
So what was the toughest part of like maintaining the standards? Was it the customer service or the grooming?
Customer service,
Yep.
easily, because the uniform was standard with all airlines.
Right.
But when I was a supervisor, I had to check the grooming, I had to check for safety, and I had to check for service with them. And the grooming part was they wanted to take a uniform and turn it into what I call a costume. And I was very strict about. I was really strict about the uniform. It had to, have a certain standard. But I noticed as the years went by, like there was a difference between TWA and JetBlue. TWA had really strict standards, and JetBlue was a little more loose with the flight attendants. But there was a difference between the two. But I was much happier at TWA because they were just stricter, and then the flight attendants.
It was a real properly run outfit at TWA.
Yes, it was. And JetBlue was a little more loose. And I've been on JetBlue as a passenger, and I don't tell them that I used to be a supervisor there. And I see the way.
Is JetBlue as bad as people say it is? Don't hold back.
I hate to say it, but when I joined JetBlue, they were about 2 years old, and they were like the darling of the airline industry at the time. But once they ended up being just like any other airline. But I remember when I started, and I really liked it. But yeah.
I want to find out about how you came to Tucson, but I have one last airline question for you.
Okay.
The word stewardess. Is this is that a problematic word in the?
Well, I didn't care what I was called when I first started. I was a flight attendant, and the reason they turned the stewardess into flight attendants because when they started bringing the boys on,
well, that's true.
Then they couldn't be stewardesses. So that's why they use the word flight attendant.
Right.
But to be honest, a lot of the boys like stewardess better.
On that note, Linda, what brought you to Tucson?
Well, I wanted to retire in Las Vegas, and I was there for about 9 years. And I lived in Henderson, and I had a beautiful apartment. I was very, very happy there. But they started taking the rent up, and then they took it up $300 a month 1 year, and then the next year they took it up another $300. So
wow.
I have a brother that lives here, and he said, "Why don't you come to Tucson?" So I came down here for about 4 days, and I looked around. He drove me out, all over the place and everything. He didn't bring me here. That would have been my choice.
Yeah.
But so. And then I decided that I would move here because I loved the area that I chose. And I came back about 3 months later, and I moved down here, and I've been here ever since. And I love the place that I chose to live in, but the neighborhood changed.
What intersection do you live by?
I live. It's Broadway and Wilmot, that area, because there are the stores and everything around there is what
Supermarket, mall,
everything. Yeah, and it was right down the street from the mall, so. I said, this is perfect. And for the first year, it was really, really nice. And I felt very comfortable. And I said, okay, I like this.
So part of your story is you rely on the bus because you don't drive.
Right. Well, the airline industry did a terrible thing to the inner ear. And so I have an inner ear condition as a result of flying all those years.
Oh, wow.
And it causes vertigo. So I had a talk with my ear doctor years and years ago, and he says, well, if you have a vertigo attack while you're driving, that wouldn't be good. So I said, okay, well, I just won't drive. I didn't like to drive anyway. The whole time I was in New York, I never drove. So I didn't care whether I drove or not. So I always relied on the buses. And so when I came here, it's bus stops, very convenient, and that's what I liked about it when I chose to live here. So I do have to rely on the buses to go, grocery shopping or wherever I want to go.
So what year did you move here?
It was December 22nd of 22.
Okay.
And like I said, the first year I was here, I was really, really happy. I can just walk around in the middle of the evening or something, and then I love looking at the mountains. I love the mountains here.
They make up for a lot of misery in this town.
Yeah, they're so beautiful. And I took pictures, and I would send them to my friends in New York. Look at these mountains, and they finally said, "Stop sending us pictures of these mountains." But I love the mountains. I did.
So, so 2022 is like right on the edge of when this town really took a dump.
Yes, because I started to notice, like when I first moved here, when I would take public transportation, there would be maybe one homeless person every 2 or 3 weeks I would see, and as time went by, there seemed to be more, and it would be a combination of three. There would be like a homeless person or someone on drugs, or like some that have mental conditions. I can't diagnose anyone, but you can
Right.
tell when a person is speaking to themselves really loud on the bus, there's something not
Sure.
so right. But I would just kind of back away from them and stuff. But it became like, at first it was every now and again, but now every time I get on the bus, there's one of those three or all three. And I know that they don't have the fares. And as a matter of fact, about 3 months ago, the mayor was having a town hall and said, if you wanted to come and talk about the transit system, we'll listen to you and you can speak about it. So I went with a friend of mine, and we wanted to speak because what I wanted to discuss was I know that they have the free fares, and anybody that wants to come on, if you're homeless and you have 900 pieces of equipment, or not equipment, but boxes and dogs and things like that, you bring everything on the bus. And number one, it doesn't leave enough room for people to sit. And number two, it smells really bad. I don't mean to be rude, but it does.
That's the reality.
And
so did you get to speak at this meeting?
Well, they gave us these little index cards, and we had to say what our name was and whether we wanted to reinstate the fare or not.
Right.
Okay. Well, I said, Linda Johnson, I want to reinstate the fares because it won't solve everything, but it would make it where everybody just can't get on and make it uneasy for everybody else. So the cards were given, and then there was the other card that said we want to keep the fares. So the mayor was going through the different cards, and she was looking through them, and so she never picked my name, and so I never got to speak, and I was kind of disappointed because I wasn't going to attack. I just wanted to make a point. At one point, I did go on her Facebook page, and I challenged her to go on and sit at a bus stop for an hour because she was saying nothing was going on.
Yep.
And I'm here to tell you it is. And I understand that people have problems, and I do have compassion, but I see neglect. And when I see the people that come on the bus, if they're on drugs or if they're having mental issues or if they're homeless, I feel bad for them. But what's uncomfortable is I never know how they're going to act because for instance, about maybe 2 months ago, I was on the 8 bus, and I got on, and
Where does the 8 bus go?
it goes down Broadway.
Okay.
And I was going west on there, and there's a Walmart that I love, and so I get on the bus, and I sat right next to this young guy, and I just sat down, and I go straight to my phone, and so we were about 2 or 3 stops later. This guy that I sat next to, he was probably maybe in his late 20s, and he seemed, no big deal. So then about a couple of stops later, this guy gets on. He must be at least in his 80s. And so he comes, and he was looking to sit at a seat, but then he decided to just stand behind the bus driver. All of a sudden, the bus took off, and the guy was just standing there. The guy sitting next to me jumps up out of his seat, and he starts beating on this
My Lord.
elderly man. And the people on the bus, they didn't know what to do. And neither did I, because I was just sitting right next to him. And I didn't think anything of it. And he just started beating the guy. And then, so the people on the bus, they were just frozen. And I was one of them, And so the bus driver, he tells the bus driver, he said, stop this bus. And he let him off right in the middle of the stop and just let the guy. So he runs off the bus, and then people come to the aid of this man. But one thing I noticed was that the bus driver never called for assistance, and he never called the police or anything. And the guy was just standing there. And the thing is, he didn't know who the guy was that beat him up. It was a random attack. And I got off the bus because it upset me so much. And because I saw something that happened that I was just sitting there. What if it was me?
Yeah,
he decided.
It's just terrifying.
Yes, it was. And so that's when I wanted to go to that meeting and speak about, why they should not have fares. I'm not talking about punishing people that have every right to get on the bus as I do, but I don't want to get on a bus and feel fear, fearful. And then the bus stops are even worse. You can go on any bus stop and you can see the homeless sitting there with all their stuff. And they, for the most part, they just sit there, and then the bus just keeps going by. But then they'll get on too, and they'll take up lots of room, and then they'll bring everything they ever own on the bus.
Hold that thought for a second, Linda. We're going to go visit some great commercial sponsors here on Wake Up. You're on the Live the Dream Media Network. You have a question or comment, 520-771-5101, or hit us. We got some nice comments already in the live chats. Hit us on YouTube or Facebook on the live chats, and I will read them if pithy and appropriate, as we like to say. So you're on the Live the Dream Media Network.
You're listening to Wake Up with Christy Simone on Live the Dream Media Network. Now a word from our sponsors.
Hi, this is Sean McCluskey, co-owner and designated broker for Rincon Ventures. If you're a rental owner by choice or by accident and you're looking to hire or change property management companies, consider Rincon Ventures. We employ an aggressive web-based advertising strategy to market your rental. We thoroughly screen prospective tenants and conduct routine property inspections. Our online system gives tenants the ability to pay rent and file maintenance requests instantly over the web. Our owners can use the same system to instantly check on their properties. Call Rincon Ventures at 881-2258 or visit us on the web at rvprop.com.
When exploring America's best city for Mexican food, start off at one of the best, El Taco Rustico. Chef Juan Almanza is crafting some of the best dishes in Tucson at 2 locations, Grant and Oracle and the new Rustico Dos at Park and Silver Lake. Everything on the menu is a standout, from the shrimp rojitos, costilla beef ribs, to Arizona's best birria. Head over to Rustico Dos for Juan's amazing smoked brisket, pulled pork and ribs, plus all your Mexican favorites. For more, check out tacorustico.com.
In Marana, community isn't just where we live, it's who we are. And at the heart of it all is the Marana Chamber of Commerce. We are building a thriving community through connected business leadership. We start the month bright and early with Marana Mornings, sparking real conversations and connections. We celebrate growing networks at our 4th Tuesday mixers, hosted in exciting spaces. We unite visionaries and leaders at Impact Marana, driving meaningful progress together. We look ahead with Marana Insights, hearing directly from regional voices about what's next for our town. And we serve, through the passion of our board of directors and ambassadors, creating a culture of belonging through service and leadership. Because of our members, we're not just doing more. We're becoming more. Together, we're shaping the future of Marana. We are the Marana Chamber of Commerce.
My heat and air, we're in a state of disrepair.
It's July and we're celebrating Independence Day all month. Picture Rocks Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing wants to buy your old air conditioning unit. For the month of July, we will buy back your old AC unit for $1,776 with the purchase and installation of a new air conditioning system. Picture Rocks Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing, keeping you cool all summer long. Call us at 520-492-0748 or picturerockspooling.com.
Picture Rocks Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing.
Monsoon season is almost here. Is your roof ready? Don't wait for a leak to show up before trying to find a roofer during roofing's busiest time of year. Call Blueprint Home Services today to schedule a free pre-monsoon inspection. Our number is 520-525-2555. Blueprint Home Services offers free, fast estimates, price lock guarantees, and the longest workmanship warranty in Tucson. Again, that number is 520-525-2555. You can also book an appointment at blueprinthomeservice.com. Blueprint Home Services is licensed, bonded, insured, and trusted. AZROC number 322635.
Welcome to Tucson Strength, or as we like to say, welcome home. We are Tucson's locally owned gym that was built out of a passion for strength. Our goal isn't to slam our gym full of people for the lowest price possible. We are here for those that want a focused training environment with the best equipment around, and a supportive community that is tired of the big box gym scene.
Welcome back to Wake Up with Christy Simone on Live the Dream Media Network. Now back to our show.
Hey, you're on the Live the Dream Media Network, having a good time with our friend Linda Johnson. We're talking about the increasing horrors of being on the Suntran bus. I do want to get I want to get a couple of comments from the listeners. Mark the movie guy, Mark Van Buren. Linda's a great guest and telling it the way it really is. All the elected officials should be hearing this interview. Umpire John, Linda reminds me of the best flight attendants I flew with at American. He's a long-time Air Force captain and flew for many years for American Airlines. So he used to be in Tucson. He lives in Flagstaff now, and he's flying human beings over the Grand Canyon now as a retirement gig. So
I've never been there.
Bill, number one, she spoke up. How many don't? How many other stories are even more scary that we aren't being told? Damien from 857 Tucson. Wow, this lady's so strong for speaking up. Much respect to Linda. Rex, Linda, what a lovely lady. CCB, if the city can red tag houses that have all these parties and drinking, can't they do that to the buses? Well, there's some truth like that.
That's a good idea.
So we were talking off air a little bit about my crazy idea of why don't we just have, if it's up to the city wants to keep it free, that's their problem and their taxpayers, right? But at the same time, what if we just had a pass system? So you have to go to some ward office, you show your picture ID, and they give you a free pass, and you can use the bus. And if you abuse your privileges on the bus, they take away your pass and you can't come on.
I think it's a fabulous idea. And when you mentioned, I said, what? Did somebody think of that? Well, as I mentioned, when I lived in Las Vegas, they did have a pass because they had them for seniors. And I had to take the picture and everything, and all I did was show, But what I did notice, the difference between Las Vegas and here, is that if a passenger would be unruly on the bus driver would stop the bus and just escort them off or just ask them to leave and wouldn't move the bus until they did.
Right.
Or here, they do all kinds of things and nobody does anything, but everybody is afraid to speak, and I'm one of them. I would like to go up to someone and say, could you please, and that part of it, I wish that they would just tell people there's a certain rules of conduct that should apply to everyone.
Right.
But it doesn't happen, and that's what scares me the most.
I think the bus drivers, when you said so, if you're just tuning in, Linda Johnson, she has to rely on the bus because she can't drive because she has an inner ear thing from being on flights all her life as part of working for American Airlines. TWA.
Thank you.
Sorry, I apologize. I had American Airlines on the brain. But so what happened was she was talking about if you're just tuning in, you're sitting on a bus. This guy is sitting next to you who was you could tell there was probably a little bit of problems, but nothing too crazy at that point.
No, actually,
nothing.
There was nothing because I just sat right next to him and I had, I just went to my phone and he was, about 3 or 4 stops later, that's when the other guy came on and then he just got up and he's hitting him in his face and everything. And the guy kept saying, "Why are you doing this? I don't know you." And then everybody just froze. And like I mentioned, I was one of those.
Sure.
And so when he told the bus driver, "Let me off this bus," he didn't say it like that. And the bus driver stopped right then and there and let him off and then just kept driving.
So they're not going to call the cops because they know the cops don't come anymore.
I heard that. That's what I didn't know that until I heard that, and I was like, "That's why." Because why wouldn't he
Right.
have called? Because the guy had to be in his 80s, and when the guy gets off the bus, he had this. You can see the guy where he beat him up in his face and stuff, and there were no one called for assistance of any kind. And he said, "Why would he do this? I don't know him." And then people were talking and say, "How can we help you?" and stuff. And then I couldn't sit on the bus anymore, so I just got off at the next stop and just sat at the bus stop and just cried my eyes out because it was so upsetting to see somebody. This guy had to be in his 80s, and the guy that attacked him must have been in his late 20s. And he was just beating him, just kept hitting him in the face. And so that was about the worst thing I ever saw.
What other bad actions are you seeing on the Suntran bus system?
Well, what happens is when people get on and they speak loudly to themselves, and those are the ones that appear to have mental issues, and they speak to themselves or they start screaming or something. And then the drug addicts, they talk really loud and they bother everybody else. This one guy sat next to me, and I read somewhere that if you take fentanyl, you get these open sores on your body. Well, he sat next to me, and he had like an open sore on his arm, and he kept touching me with that arm, and he started talking to me, and I didn't want to talk to him because he was asking me very personal questions, and he'd never seen me before, and so I just said, I'm working right now, and I was looking at my phone. He says, "Well, what do you do?" And I said, "I'm a writer." I just made up something because I didn't want to talk to him. And he just kept talking, and then I finally just got off the bus. But I feel very uneasy because when I want to go somewhere, I love grocery shopping for whatever reason. And so I want to get on the bus, but when I want to buy something, when I want to go to Walmart or something, I'd say, well, is it really worth it? Because I know when I get on the bus, now it's every time I get on the bus, there's one of the three, or all three. And it's just uncomfortable, which is why I came to the conclusion that I needed to leave. And that's why I'm leaving.
All right, we're going to get to that in a second.
Okay.
Sarah, who's on I call it Wastebook instead of Facebook, but so when I say
No
Wastebook,
wonder.
I mean Facebook. So on Wastebook, she said, my 19-year-old took the city bus to and from beauty school. We were on Tankerverde and Kolb area. She took it to Speedway and Country Club. The amount of times homeless men would bother her and the amount of drugs she would see passed around and actually used on the bus makes it difficult to say that Tucson is my city.
That's right. I couldn't agree more. I wouldn't be surprised if I probably saw the same thing with that same person, because this is what, if it happened periodically, I can understand that. And, there's crime in every city. Okay, so there's, to be realistic, but I lived in New York.
We're a little extra special here on crime.
Exactly.
So I was just telling you, I was in New York City with the family over Christmas, and we crawled through Brooklyn, Queens, and Manhattan. I didn't see any fentanyl heads.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Anyone who was kind of a lower income demographic was hustling. They had a food cart, but they were selling me a knockoff Gucci bag.
They do that, living all those years in New York. That wasn't surprising, and what's odd is that I lived in the biggest city here, in the United States, and I never felt unsafe in New York.
Even to this day. So our friend Colleen, who everyone knows, Colleen, friend of the show, she was just in New York all last week. And she said there was not one point that she felt unsafe. There were cops present in the street, this type of thing, where she says she doesn't feel like that in certain parts of Tucson.
I've never seen a police officer patrolling or walking around or anything, because what I do notice is that there was the mayor put out some notice that the people that stand on the corners, and they're on the little islands, and they have their cards and that say help me and all that, and then they have the boxes with all their belongings and anything. They said they were going to tell them that they can't do that anymore. So I was like, okay, because where I live, there are always the four people,
right.
And so I For first, a couple of days after they said they were going to stop doing that, they were right back at it.
Of course. They can say things. If you don't enforce it, it doesn't mean anything.
Exactly. So now it's like, okay, this isn't going to last because they're going to go right back to what they were doing.
So I live in Oro Valley, right, just a little north of here, and my wife and I had to go to a couple of meetings in the center part of town, and in those 2 meetings, they all happened about 4:00 in the afternoon, driving in the Speedway Swan area, going down that area. 3 people with no pants, no underwear, but all wearing shoes. Right?
So they had shoes.
Right. And so now for me, when I consider it a bonus, if I go into Tucson and everyone has their pants on, I go,
it's like, okay.
Good going, Tucson. We had a good day today.
Exactly. Because it's sad when you have to think of it that way where, just being decent is like
right.
But what I say, one word that comes to mind when I see what I see, and the word is neglect.
Yeah.
And that's what bothers me about this whole thing because I've written on Facebook and on the pages when people talk about this and they say, well, people, if they need help if they have mental issues and they need help, you can't make them do it. But there's got to be something that we can do, that someone can do that could help these people because some of them I really, really feel sorry for because they could be vulnerable.
Sure.
And to me, I just think that they're just thrown out to, just get on the buses, just stay out of our way, and then you're fine. But then just the passengers, like me.
Yeah. Well, it seems like the drugs and depravity that happens just at the bus stop is.
Oh.
What are we seeing at bus stops?
We see homeless, like the one that I challenged the mayor to sit at for an hour was on Swan and Broadway, because I got there one day and then there were 3 different homeless people there. One had a dog, and then the other 2 had all their stuff, and then they were smoking something that definitely could not have been a cigarette. So I was sitting at the stop, but then I just got up and sat behind the bus stop because I didn't want to inhale whatever it is they were smoking, and they were sharing it with themselves. But before I got up, the guy that had the dog said, I'm not asking you for money from me. Could you help me feed my dog? I don't need that every time I walk out of the house. And so, but then that was one case, but then all of a sudden I see it all the time now. And they sit there, and then if I'm sitting, if I want to sit down at the bus stop, just take a seat while I have all my bags and everything, I can't. There's no room because everybody's taking up the seats.
Well, then in the summer where you'd like to possibly be in the shade, you can't do that because you'd probably get you get harmed by secondhand fentanyl vapes.
Yes. And because that's a big fear, I don't want that in my body. I've never taken drugs, and I've always been very proud of the fact that I've never had that issue. And I don't want to sit at a bus stop and have to inhale something that was very harmful to me. But
sure,
I'm stuck with it, right now.
So now you're leaving.
Yes, I had to decide.
It makes sense
because I had to ask myself, if this how from what I see, whatever the issues are, they won't be solved quick enough.
Right.
Because everything is deteriorating really quickly. But then, do I want to wait around until maybe things can be done? And I'm not sure that I want to do that because these are my twilight years.
Sure.
And I'd rather just be nice and comfortable and safe.
Yeah. Why live with all this stress?
Yeah. And I don't have to. And it was a hard decision to make because you
also feel trapped in your home.
Exactly. And because sometimes, like I mentioned, I don't leave home if I think about, well, I don't want to sit with a bunch of people on the bus and I won't be able to get a seat because someone with all their belongings are taking up 4 seats and I may not be able to sit. So how bad do I want to get my veggies?
But like you said, the simple pleasure of you getting on the bus, going to the supermarket, and taking your time to do a little grocery shopping and figure out what you're going to cook for dinner has now been ruined.
It has.
By the out-of-control conditions of the Suntran bus system in Tucson, Arizona.
That's exactly, and it bothers me because I love this city. It's a beautiful city, and I've met some wonderful people since I've been here.
Yeah.
And like I would talk to them, and they would say, "Well, if you need to go to the store, I'll take you." I don't want to do that because I've always been very independent, and I don't want to call someone because I need to go grocery shopping because I can be in Walmart for 2 hours, and my friends were kind, asking, offering help, but I don't want to have to call somebody because I want to go to the grocery store.
Yeah, it's sad.
And, I can't take walks. I can't, like sometimes if I want to take a bus just to ride around and look at the scenery, I don't want to do that. So I decided until I leave, I'll just get on the bus or I'll go shopping if I absolutely want to, because I want to limit my time on the buses because of this. And I'm sorry to have to say that, but it's true.
It's heartbreaking, isn't it?
It is, because this is a beautiful city. And the people here are fantastic. And I hate to leave them, but
Where you heading?
I'll be going back to Nevada. Yes, there's a company that owns lots of senior apartments, and I applied and I qualified to to go there. So I'm going to look at the apartments in August, and then I'll be moving out in October.
What town?
That would be Las Vegas or Henderson in that area. Not near the Strip, because even when I was living in Nevada, I didn't go anywhere near the Strip, but I lived in Henderson.
We just had our buddy Danny's there for the U.S. powerlifting, and so we have a system that he can do a broadcast from his phone while he's walking around.
Wow.
And so he stops talking in the middle and he goes like this. I go, "What's going on, bro?" He goes, "Hold on, I got a druggie up on my shoulder."
Oh goodness!
This is at Fremont Street.
Oh
okay.
Yeah, I went there once when I first moved there in 2013, and that was the last time I went.
A couple more comments. John Backer, perhaps Tucson needs their version of the guardian angels to keep peace and report issues.
Absolutely, I totally agree with that, because I don't see any reinforcements. When things happen, people just do what they want to do. Like this pharmacy I went to, I was talking to the guy there that I met when I first came here, and he said they come in and they'll take stuff, and they just walk out because they can't say anything. They just walk out. They just come in there and just grab stuff and just leave. He said, but there's nothing we can do about it. That's not right. It really isn't.
Patricia Beatty, we treat our lost dogs better than we do these people.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more, because, like some of the homeless do have their dogs and stuff, and they seem to care a lot about them, but I don't think they should have them because they can't feed them. But it's a shame that we as passengers have to just put up with being abused and ignored.
Yep.
And that's what I feel very uncomfortable with, when I come here.
Our friend Mona Gibson, Linda is a lovely lady. We will miss her.
I'll miss you too. It was a hard decision for me to make, but
sure,
I had to do it because I don't see anything changing anytime soon, and the change will most likely be gradual.
So in the end, if you listen to what we talked about on the show 10 years ago, we were talking about very nuanced things in relation to how Tucson could be better for business and different things like that. The last few years, I'm down to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, in relation to can you walk out and not be hurt leaving your house, right? If you can't handle that, the nuanced stuff means nothing.
Exactly. And that's why that's why I was telling you, I have to think about how bad do I want these groceries? And that doesn't make any sense.
That's insane.
It doesn't make any sense. But I do feel badly for the people that are suffering, the ones that are on drugs.
And not that I'm surprised, but I am sad that you didn't get to talk at that little town hall thing.
I wanted to talk because I wouldn't attack anybody. I just wanted to make my point.
No, you handled this beautifully.
And let them know, that I'm not asking for anything that I think as a tax-paying citizen of Tucson that I'm entitled to have peace and quiet. It's just something that I really wanted to talk about. But when the people that did get up and speak were the ones who wanted to continue with the no fare.
Yeah.
And I think they won out on this. I really do.
Again, human decency, taking it on the chin.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to ask you 3 questions that are unrelated to buses because you're fun, so I want to ask you a few questions. All right. Give me 2 or 3 locally owned restaurants that you're going to miss going to in Tucson.
Okay, the one that I couldn't wait for it to open was Angie's Lobster.
Yeah.
I would go by there and I watched them build that because I wanted to go. And then Roadhouse, Texas Roadhouse. I like Texas Roadhouse.
Yep.
And there's that one place, Lucky Wishbone.
Yep, our friend Josh owns Lucky. Was one of the owners of Lucky Wishbone.
My brother who lives here told me about it, and I had to go and try it out. And I don't eat fried foods very often, so I treat myself to there every now and then.
What do you like to get at Lucky Wishbone?
I like to get there's a 7-piece for $9.
Yeah.
And it's all the meat I like. And so it takes me 3 days to eat it, but
nothing wrong with that.
Really good.
Angie's is interesting, right? I like Angie's,
yes.
right? And
I
so
love lobster.
They're getting their lobster from Maine, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's quick and easy to get it, right? Like I said, I started hitting the ones in Phoenix when they first opened out here.
How do they do it? $13 for a sandwich.
That comes with the fries and a drink.
Oh, yes. But then I stopped going there because everybody's hanging around there, and I have to climb over people, and that ruined that little.
Are you saying the druggies
they're
ruin
there.
Angie's for you too?
Yeah, they're hanging around there a lot, and I've seen more than one arrest. When the police officer did show up for whatever reason, they would arrest people and stuff, but they'll stand around there. And then they build tents, like behind the apartment that I live in. They started building tents there, and I wasn't comfortable with that. But
what was your first car that you drove that was yours?
But my first car was a 1972 Canary Yellow Nova. and this guy, he fixed it up. He gave me these big giant tires, and I love that car right now. We'd be caught dead in it, but I love the car. I did. That was.
I'm looking at it right now. That's a great car.
I know. He put bucket seats in there. Got rid of those silly seats that came in there and had bucket seats.
First concert.
The Village People.
Oh. Is this a good thing?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Felipe was my favorite, but
what did Felipe dress as?
He was the Indian.
Okay.
Oh, can you say that?
I don't know.
Okay. But I like Felipe no matter what, but they were so good. And if they were still together and did another concert, I would go in a second.
Where did you see the Village People? You remember?
It was one of the stadiums in Los Angeles years ago. I couldn't remember which one.
In those days, the Village People were playing a stadium.
Oh, now I don't know what they do, but I really liked it. I remember it like it was yesterday.
Is that your best concert? Because the question we always have is first concert, best concert.
I don't go to them often, so for me to go to a concert, I have to really, really want to see the performer because I'd rather see something on TV or something.
Gotcha.
But I was standing up and jumping around like everybody else.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, Linda, thank you for sharing the pain of being a Suntran bus user.
I know. I wish
sad.
I didn't have to. I really do.
Yeah.
But I just hope that something is done because the city deserves better.
Amen.
And that's why I'm doing this.
Linda, pleasure meeting you today.
Thank you. Pleasure meeting you as well.
You did a great job on the show today.
Thank you.
So I don't know if you were nervous or not, but it didn't come through.
At first I was a little, but not, but when I have a point to make, I can't be nervous because I need to make the point.
Yeah.
And thank you for allowing me to do it. Hopefully.
Thank you for stepping up. I appreciate it.
Thank you. So, appreciate it.
All the best in the rest of your life in Henderson, Nevada, or wherever you're ending up again. So, all the best.
I'll be checking in on Tucson because I wish the best for Tucson.
Awesome.
So.
All right, my friend. You have to all the best.
Thank you.
All right, Linda Johnson. All right, we're going to come back. I'm going to have reflections on my discussion with Linda when we come back. And then Peter and Tara are coming up with our libertarian friends at the top of the hour. You're on the Live the Dream Media Network.